Somebody like Chris Tomlin, who just happens to be the subject of this video, somebody like Chris Tomlin is compromised and is helping to break down the walls and unite these groups together, and it's going to lead thousands and thousands of people to hell. We can't be okay with that. What's going on, guys? This is Zach, the Wretched Watchman, and I'm bringing you a little bit of news of what's going on the ecumenical front and the things involving the tearing down of denominational walls and different faith walls in order to form this one world religion that we see coming at us pretty fast right now. If we're paying attention and we're not getting caught up fully in everything going on in the world regarding the politics and the technology and the wars and stuff going on, of course, we pay attention to all those things too. But if we actually kind of pay attention to what's going on when it comes to the religious front, and again, not the obvious stuff, but what we see going on behind the scenes in the more subtle, deceptive way of things, then we can really see some of these things happening in front of our very eyes. And so I talk about this often, probably not as often as I should. I should probably make note of that, but I talk about this often. And I often warn about the fact that we see prominent, quote unquote, Christian celebrities and figures that are helping to tear down the walls. They're making subtle changes to biblical doctrine. They're making subtle changes to Bible eschatology, and they make they tear down the walls between the different denominations and the different faiths. And because they do it so subtly, to the point of where it's like, oh, it's not really that big of a deal. There's all this other stuff going on over here, the different Bible translations and the LGBT alphabet stuff going on and all this other stuff that we don't necessarily pay attention to what's going on when it comes to things like very prominent CCM or contemporary Christian music artists teaming up with things like the Catholics, or teaming up with the Mormons, or teaming up with these other groups that we really should have no affiliation with because they are a false religion. And we just tend to write it off and go, it's okay. I like their music. That doesn't make them a bad guy. So it's okay if I go ahead and continue to use their music and support them, even though they are continuing to promote and team up with things that are going to send people to hell. That's exactly what's going on. So when you buy their music, or you sing their music in their church, or you listen to them on the radio or anything like that, you are helping fund them in order to continue to do these things. And so this is something that I warn about a lot. And one of the guys that I've warned about often, he's usually one of the most, he's the one that I get some of the most pushback on because of his relevance in the church. Pretty much every church sings his music every Sunday, is Chris Tomlin. And he's somebody who teams up with just heretical people like Joyce Meyer and Joel Osteen and T.D. Jakes and a whole host of other heretical people. But he also partners up with things like the Jesus Calling stuff, which the Jesus Calling was written by Sarah Young, who said that the Bible wasn't enough for her. She needed more. And then apparently she claims that she had direct revelation contact with Jesus, like face-to-face contact with Jesus, who gave her direct private revelation, which then she wrote in all of her books and sent out for everybody to read. Now, that should be red flags going off all over the place. But he also teams up with different people of the Mormon groups. He teams up with the heretics. He teams up with the Catholic group. He teams up with all these people. But we just tend to ignore it and write it off because, oh, he's not that bad of a guy. And I like his music, and we use his music every Sunday, and it should be no problem. But the problem is when you have Christians who are ill-prepared on this, because pastors and Bible teachers and stuff don't ever want to talk about this subject. But when we have Christians who are ill-prepared, they just naturally think, oh, well, if Chris is teaming up with these people, then they can't be that bad. And they can start being swayed in the directions that they don't want to go. And this isn't nitpicking. This isn't straw man. This isn't trying to find a problem anywhere. This is just the reality of it. This is what happens when we see these things. That's why Bethel music and Hillsong music and Passion music and Elevation music and Sean Foich and Charity Gale and Lauren Daigle and all these other artists, we shouldn't be toying around with that because people will be drawn over to wherever they are connected to. It's the same thing with Christian celebrities. We just tend to give them a pass when it comes to that, not realizing maybe we should wait and see and most of the Christian quote unquote celebrities that we see prove that the fruit is pretty rotten. So what's going on with that? So I just wanted to point that out before we jump into this, because Chris Tomlin has decided to partner with a Catholic director so he can produce an executive movie. Isn't that wonderful? Let's take a look. So if we jump over here, this is the Catholic News Agency, coming straight from the Catholic News Agency. It says the movie The Last Supper depicts Jesus' last days told through his eyes of his followers. And yeah, let's take a look at what's going on with this. So this is from March 8th. So we're a little behind on it, but still, or March 8th, 9th, 8th. Yeah, sorry. Anyways, we'll just move on from that. A little behind on it, but still relevant to all of what we've been seeing going on. So it says The Last Supper is a new movie depicting the ultimate act of divine love and sacrifice told through the eyes of those who walked alongside Jesus Christ. Mauro Borelli, a Catholic, so we're on Catholic News Agency, and the director of the movie is a Catholic, served as the film's writer and director, and award-winning Christian artist Chris Tomlin was the film's executive producer, marking Tomlin's first time stepping into the theatrical filmmaking. The film will be released on March 14th, so just a couple days ago, actually, in theaters across the United States. Borelli and Tomlin spoke to the CNA, Catholic News Agency, about the inspiration behind the film, what they hope viewers will take away from it, especially given its release during Lent. The inspiration for the film came from Leonardo da Vinci's famous painting of The Last Supper. Borelli had the idea to shoot an entire movie in one room depicting this historical movement. However, an entire movie in one room? Moving on. However, as we began to write the script, the story quickly began to expand. I was very passionate about the idea of expanding such an important moment of the Eucharist. So again, we're getting the Catholic elements. How much Catholicism is within this movie? That's the question. I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you what's all involved with it. But again, we have Catholic director, we have Catholic elements. As we know, the Catholic version of what really happened is false. They worship a false Jesus. And so we've got all this stuff going on here that Chris Tomlin is on board with, that helped create, because he's the executive producer. Are we going to write off an excuse for that? I don't think we should, but that's just me. So people go to church all the time, they receive communion, and they hear the words, "This is my body," and it's such an important moment that they don't have many images to connect to it. So I said, I want to expand that. Keep in mind, Catholics, the Catholic Church teaches that every time you take communion, you are killing Jesus over and over and over again. Not spiritually, you are actually killing him every single time, and you are actually eating his body and his blood. That's what the Catholic Church believes. That's what they teach, which we know as Christians, Bible-believing, Christ-following Christians, that is a bunch of hogwash. It's a bunch of baloney. That's not how this works, but that's what they teach. So is that element going to be a part of this movie? Something to think about. He's kind of making reference to it in this interview, so I wouldn't be surprised. Looks like Chris Tomlin's okay with that. The Catholic director pointed out how much he felt it was to make this movie as plausible and accurate as possible. In order to do this, he did a great amount of research and delved into the Gospels and the Torah. After watching the film itself, Tomlin felt inspired to get involved in any way he could, and used his platform to help spread the word about the movie. Again, hey guys, all the people that listen to my music, all the churches that endorse me, all the churches that love what I do and everything like that, come check out this Catholic movie about the Catholic version of what is going on. Again, we should be seeing a problem with this. This is no just it's okay excuse. We don't compromise on the biblical stuff. Chris Tomlin is not only compromising on it, he is himself compromised. I could go over the laundry list. I gave you a couple of examples that should be more than enough. But I could give you a laundry list of things that shows that he doesn't care about the truth and promoting the correct doctrine and the correct gospel and biblical separation. He doesn't care about that. He cares about expanding his reach and expanding his influence, and he's taking people in the wrong direction. We have got to be very careful that we don't get caught up in that, and then we don't support and endorse these things. I'm very disappointed in the pastors that don't care about this, that if you bring this to their attention, they go, I don't care. And it's unfortunate because it seems most pastors just don't care because his music is played on the radio and brings people into their church. That is wrong, in my opinion. That is absolutely wrong. But this is where we're at now. After watching the film himself, Tomlin felt inspired to get involved in any way that he could. It's so well done, it's so beautifully done, and it's so biblically right on the money. It just brings God's word to life, and it's not Hollywood. Tomlin told CNA, I was really moved by the way that it was done. Not only does Tomlin serve as the executive producer, but also his new song, Greater Love, will be featured in the film. He shared that he wrote the song before getting involved with the film, but once he was working on it, he had asked if any songs that might work to be included. He told them that he just written a song he hadn't played for anyone yet. After playing them a demo, they all thought it was spot on. It was like I watched the movie and wrote the song. This is important. This isn't something that we should take lightly as Christians. This is not something that we should write off as a secondary issue. That's usually what happens, is this just gets written off as a secondary issue. Oh, you're just nitpicking. It really doesn't mean that much in the long run. But this is something, since I started my channel, that I have been shouting from the mountaintops. It's something that I will not bend. I will die on this hill, especially because of my background in being a musician for well over 20 years, being involved with many different music groups within churches, including the New Apostolic or NAR groups or churches. And I know what is behind this stuff. I know what's behind it. That's why I shout it so hard. And so whenever I get people who push back, who I know haven't done a lick of research about it, we cannot claim ignorance on this stuff. We have to be knowledgeable. We have to be able to do the research. We have to be Bereans, but then we have to act on it as well. We have to be active in acting upon these things. And somebody like Chris Tomlin, who just happens to be the subject of this video, somebody like Chris Tomlin is compromised and is helping to break down the walls and unite these groups together, and it's going to lead thousands and thousands of people to hell. We can't be okay with that. We can't be okay with that. Why is it okay to go, you know what? I just like his music so much, I don't care if he's promoting things that are going to send people to hell. Think about that. The lives of people eternally, forever separated from God. Why are we okay with supporting that? I don't think that we should be. I think if we looked at this from a more deeper spiritual angle rather than just I like the music angle, I think we would recognize that there's really a lot more at danger and a lot more at play than we realize. And so we should be a little bit more active on this. But what do I know? What do I know? I'm just some dude on the internet talking about it. So just thought I'd bring some attention to this and let you guys know what's going on. And yeah, so I'll leave you right here. I am Zach, the Wretched Watchman. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out. Maranatha.